We appreciate you again tuning in to meet another member of the Monmouth University Athletics Department. Special guest this evening, not just is one of the coaches with the Monmouth Athletics Department, but a former three-sport Hall of Fame student athlete. And I probably need to throw another sport in because when our guest tonight was in school in West Long Branch, she did a little bit of everything. And before we say hello to our guest, Patrice Murray, I want to remind you, if you've missed any of our previous conversations, tonight is episode number 33. If you've missed any of our previous 32, including our education panel from last week, you can catch up in a variety of places in the video tab here on the Athletics Facebook page, on monmouthhawks.com, as well as at youtube.com/monmouthhawks. Without any further ado, please help me welcome on our 33rd episode tonight, the 36th year head coach of the Monmouth women's tennis program, Hall of Famer at Monmouth University, Patrice Murray. Coach, how you doing tonight?
Good, Eddie. Thank you very much for having me. It's excited to be part of this, and it's ironic that this is the 33rd episode because that was my basketball number. So good choice for number 33. So thanks for having me on.
So is that the reason why all the Monmouth jerseys in the bookstore have 33 on them? Because I've noticed that.
It's the truth. That's the truth. I gave them the rights to do that.
A long history of great number 33 is Monmouth men's and women's basketball, as we know. And Coach, it's always a pleasure to catch up with you. And really, your name really is synonymous with Monmouth University. First Monmouth College, now Monmouth University athletics going all the way back. And before we talk about this year's women's tennis program and everything that's going on, first have to ask how you were doing during this time, back to another school year, and just how is everything with you?
Well, thanks. Yeah, everything, thank God, is good. Family is healthy and everything, and just keeping everyone healthy and safe. It's been a trying time, and the spring was challenging for everyone, but right now good. So just fingers crossed for keeping everything going in the right direction. So, but thanks.
Yeah, and it's, as you mentioned, from last spring to hopefully this spring, we're all hopeful to see really as many sports as can be played at one time during the spring. I know we've all, off air and kind of have said that to ourselves offline. We'd all sign up for the craziest spring of our lives, and I know you would as well. So as we get into our conversation here this evening, first have to ask how the program is going and how the student athletes are. I know you're without all but one student athlete here. I know there's some travel going on, but how is the team going during this time as we are, just about a month into the school year?
Well, they're great. I have 9 players on the team. I have 8 essentially on campus right now. I have one freshman who lives in India and has just gotten her visa, thank God. So she'll be joining us for the spring semester. But the 8 players that I have are resilient, and they're working hard. It's kind of hard just practicing without a competition coming down the pike when you're getting ready to play. But they know it's important, and so they're out there. They're lifting, they're running, we're hitting. Had to take a little bit of a pause, like a lot of the teams have, and we're back on playing. So we just went, and tennis is a socially distant sport, so we do have that advantage of trying to be safe, but still being able to compete. So we're hopeful that it continues in this right direction for us.
It's funny that you bring that up, Coach, and throughout the last 6 and 7 months, so much was made when, for example, golf courses were opened in New Jersey. But the one sport that you could really have played from day one of a global pandemic to now, and I see it when you drive up and down, it is tennis. I've seen the tennis courts more crowded than ever. I know you're a lifelong shore resident as well. So were you able to get out during, the last few months when we maybe weren't allowed to do other things socially and get out and hit a little bit?
Yeah, definitely. I was, which was good. And I have some courts at my disposal, which is good, between Monmouth and where I work at Oak Hill Academy too. So we have that. I have the best of both worlds. But also just did a lot of walking and just being outside. And when they're talking about to get outside and smell the roses, it's the truth. Just to stay out and to be active and keep yourself fit is important.
And I know I think one of the first conversations we had way back when was with Monmouth strength and conditioning coach Tim Ream. And it was interesting, and that was way back, I believe, in April. And just hearing Tim mention how important it is to stay physically, mentally fit. It's been a theme of all of these conversations, not just for the student athletes, but for all of us as well. And I think we have to all keep that in mind. So, Coach, you referenced how your student athletes are doing, ready to resume practice. But throughout everything, I know that everything's been doing in small groups. We know that everyone is working safely under different protocols and policies. But how has the group taken to it? First, let's go back to when they had to go from in-person to remote instruction. They always perform so well academically, to then how they're doing now with some of these different practice rules and regulations.
Yeah, well, you go back to March 13th. We had just come off a nice win, and looking forward to our next match. And you saw everything around you just starting to kind of fold and close, and then boom, you get the call. So, and it was just kind of like, okay, well, let's just see where we go. Maybe we'll be back after, it was right after the spring break time and everything, and maybe we're just gonna resume in a couple weeks, and then realizing, okay, that's not going to be the case, and then thinking, okay, well, let's see, how we do, during the summer, and be ready, to come back in the fall, making plans. Scheduling wise, we have a real nice fall season. The weather's always great in West Long Branch in the fall, so, and everything, and obviously that wasn't happening. The team, the girls do very well academically. We're very blessed to have some very bright kids on the team, and always have done that. So they've handled the remote instruction. Some of it's a hybrid. Some of the kids that are the science majors or have some art classes are doing some in person, but they know it's important. They did very well in the spring semester. A couple took some classes in the summer. And again, they're kind of dealing with it. I think the fact that the athletes on campus are fortunate because they actually have something when they're allowed to practice. They have actually something to look forward to during their day. To say, okay, I can get out and I can play. I mean, we're all missing that competition, though. I think every coach is out there. We want to win. So to win, you have to play. So you can practice, but everyone's looking to get that first game again. So we'll get to that point. But taking care of business in the classroom is important, and that's what they're doing. Taking advantage of right now, having a little extra time because, as we were talking before, Eddie, there's no travel, so we're not leaving on a Friday morning and coming home on a Sunday night, and not having much time in between to get work done. We're leaving, in the afternoon at 11 or 12 o'clock and driving to Connecticut and getting home at 10 o'clock at night. So that time they've been able to kind of gain back themselves so they could catch up on some work and actually move ahead.
And I think that's an interesting point you bring up, where we've all, I think, had that opportunity that are used to being so go and travel related and living, whether it's on, in hotel rooms and on buses and in vans, but now you get that chance to take the step back and take a little bit of inventory of everything, whether it's the academics, whether it's other interests, like we were talking about. It has, I think, made all of us a bit more self-aware, whether your interests, are solely in the sport you play or maybe in other things. As we speak here this evening with Monmouth head women's tennis coach Patrice Murray, I won't say that every time because Coach has so many qualifiers, as you'll hear part of our conversation. She's on as the tennis coach, but there's so much more to Patrice Murray. If you do have a question for Coach about her time as the head women's tennis coach at Monmouth or her time as a student athlete at the university, you can submit it into our Facebook Live chat. I'll make sure to relay that question right over to Coach, who just referenced her team's tremendous record of accomplishment in the classroom, and the numbers really do back that up, and they're staggering, Coach. How about 9 straight seasons with multi-year APR, the academic progress rate, placed among the top tier in Division I? Only a percentage of teams get that honor. It's so hard to manage being a student athlete. You mentioned being gone for a couple of days and coming back to do your work. And when you recruit student athletes, how important is it for you to recruit someone who can not only be successful on the athletic fields or courts, but someone who can take care of business in the classroom?
Well, Eddie, I think every coach is faced with that. And then, once in a while you might be faced with a tough decision about with a student athlete. But I always tell every player and every player's parents, the first thing I do is I look at their academic record. Yeah, they have to be a strong tennis player, but right away it's 1A and 1B. So, or 1 and 1A. Let's see what have you done in the classroom? What other things have you done outside of the classroom? We're really looking to create a whole experience for the kids as when they come to Monmouth, and they're not going to have a great experience if they can't handle the classwork. So we're looking for a mature student athlete who has that ability to really focus in on what they need to do academically, and everything else will fall into place as long as they take care of business in the classroom. So that's something we talk about almost on a daily basis with the kids. I'm always asking them how their classes are going and things like that. And our academic staff at Monmouth is just top notch. Tom Bieber, the big shout out to Tom and his group, really on top of it and helping out. So that's we have a big support system at Monmouth and always have. So it's helpful, but the kids know academics actually they 100% come first, and after that, hopefully, we get some wins alongside of that. But they win in the classroom for sure.
And it's, as so many coaches have said here on Hawk Talk, it's all about preparing the student athlete. And I know the NCAA had a marketing campaign around it, but it really is about preparing the student athlete for the next step and the next chapter. We've heard President Leahy and Dr. McNeil talk about that for years. It's preparing young men and women for that next step in their professional journey. To that point, our first question comes in, and it's someone who watches our Hawk Talks normally and must have been watching because it's really a great follow-up to the question, Coach, I just asked you. And Jeremy is watching tonight. He's in West Long Branch. And Jeremy, thank you. So besides being a tremendous tennis player, Coach, and a tremendous student athlete, what are some of the other traits and characteristics that you look for when recruiting?
Dedication, the ability to time management, huge. Being able to and also distinguish right from wrong. Should I be doing this now? Should I maybe go take a nap? Should I really go to the library and get some work done? So the dedication, the time management are big things on my end for kids that self-starters. They can basically they're independent. As they've grown up through high school, their parents were able to give them a little bit of independence. So when they get to college, this is not their first time on their own, but they are able to do things for themselves, handle themselves. Be able to take care of business. So it's kind of neat as you go out there and you recruit. You meet a lot of different people and a lot of different experiences for the kids, but you all come together. And it's those skills that you take, for as you graduate and move on. And what any employer would want to have are the skills that you can develop when you're a student athlete. But also just being part of a team and having a common goal. And it's important to be able to work together, because any job that you're going to go into after college, you have to work with people. So you're going to meet lots of different kids on your team, your coaches, your opponents, and it's the same thing when you get into your workforce. You're going to meet with a lot of people. So it's good to have that little bit competitive nature, because when you're in your workforce and you want to do better, you've got to dig down and find a way to do a little bit better and put in a little extra time, whatever it may be, to attain that goal. So yeah, lots of parallels between athletics and moving into whatever chosen career you're going to take.
I think one of the things that I took away from that answer as well, that we could spin forward and that is really pertinent nowadays, is it doesn't matter if you're in an office, if you communicate with your coworkers like you and I are tonight on Zoom, you still have to be willing to work with others. I think that's such a great point, because we've been now apart for so long, but we're still so connected. Things like this, we got to catch up getting ready for this. That point is going to hold true regardless of really whatever you're doing, unless you own the business yourself and it's all you, right? You're going to have to work with people as you move forward. And, Coach, one of the most interesting things I think about you, when you played at Monmouth, you were a 3-sport athlete. We'll get into that in just a minute, but you played team and individual sports. So now you, as the coach of individuals, How different is kind of that mindset, and how different is it with tennis? I asked Chris Light when he was on. You're coaching a team of tennis players, but it's such an individualized sport. Do you have to balance that kind of feeding the team idea versus empowering student athletes? It's so kind of interesting.
Yeah, it is. It is, and it's good for me personally to have been able to play team sports, but then also play an individual sport. But tennis, I keep on saying, it's that weird sport that it's every individual, but you put all those individuals collectively, and then you have your team win, hopefully. But I always just use that same phrase. You're only as strong as your weakest link. And I just try to, drive that home with the kids. I talk to them in the summer about it, and even now, it's something that you have to stay together and keep on pushing each other. And that's the one thing I think with tennis is when we're practicing, you're practicing against your teammates, and they've got to return that ball. So if they're doing it, half-heartedly, yeah, it's up to my job to say to them, hey, come on, you got to step it up, whatever it may be, get that intensity up. But not only is that kid hurting themselves, they're hurting their teammate because they're not putting out that higher level. So tennis is something that they have to be able to rely on each other. In some other sports, it's not as much that case, but in tennis it is. So you do have to be able to balance the two of pushing each other all the time to be that better team.
And it is one of the more, I think, unique things, especially in college. When you talk professional tennis players, they're solely on their own, short of, some kind of international competition or something to that nature, where in college it is that unique, all the individuals, their points add up to a team victory, hopefully, at the end of a competition. If you have a question for Coach Murray, again, please submit it into our Facebook Live chat. We do have a question queued up, but before we get to that question, I just want to remind you that tonight's episode of Hawk Talk is brought to you in part by the Monmouth Medical Center and RWJ Barnabas Health, the official healthcare provider of Monmouth University Athletics. To learn more about the physicians and services close to you, you can visit rwjbh.org/Monmouth. Next question comes in for Coach Murray. It comes in from a regular contributor here on our Hawk Talk series. Lynn is in Jackson tonight. Lynn, thank you for watching again. And Coach, Lynn has a very interesting question. You've been at Monmouth as a student athlete and as a coach for so long. What are some of your favorite places on campus? Monmouth, as we know, such a beautiful campus. What are some of your favorite places on campus, both in your time as a student athlete and now?
That's a great question. Obviously, the athletic facilities, I absolutely, athletics is such a big part of my life. So anytime I walk into the gym, we've had tennis courts in 3 different areas on the campus. So I feel walking on various grounds, I feel great. But the 2 other places which I have always loved, Wilson Hall, I'm sorry, not Wilson Hall anymore, the Great Hall. Yeah, so I was a student athlete when Annie was filmed, so that whole experience, that's part of my recruiting pitch. But as I've been coaching for so long, I have to now target the parents because the students are not as familiar with Annie. Of course, the parents are closer to my age, they get it. And then also where the Doherty House used to be where the education department was. So when I was in college, that's where I took my education classes up there. So to see the Doherty House now, which is absolutely beautiful, where President Leahy lives, is pretty neat. But every time I've traveled to so many different college campuses, as a student athlete and then as a coach, and I don't see any other college as spectacular in their beauty as Monmouth is. It's the way the facilities keeps everything up. It's just gorgeous. It's just a beautiful campus, and everything is always shining. So it's just a beautiful place to be.
It's so true, and even in my time at the university now, with where you get to call home now, that great tennis facility, that obviously is fairly new. Obviously, the Ocean First Bank Center, Kessler Stadium. One of the great things, Hess Field on the Great Lawn. One of the great things is constant improvement in these facilities that we get to see now. The weight room and the athletic facilities that are in the Ocean First Bank Center, and the facelift that those had about a year ago, thanks to President Leahy and what's been going on. It really is remarkable. And when we get to travel around to other schools, I think that's the reason so many of us, I think, stay at Monmouth for so long, as we were kind of talking about earlier with whether you went to school at Monmouth or you found it after the fact. It's a place that is pretty hard to leave once you get here.
It's true. No, and that's why I think Monmouth has such tremendous staying power, and that usually starts at the top, and with Dr. McNeil being, so strong and being here for so long, and so many of the, the head coaches, Coach Cal and Coach Ehalt, Chrissy, soccer, Rob and Hugh from soccer, Coach Joe, who just retired, 2 years ago, long time coaches. So and you stay for a reason, and a lot of the sports supervisor Karen Edson, I've known her since being a student athlete myself. So a lot of longtime people, it does say something about the college itself.
It absolutely does. And if you have a question for Coach Murray, again, please submit it into our Facebook Live chat. There is another question that is queued up in the chat waiting for it. But Coach, I just want to pivot a little bit. You've been the head women's tennis coach at Monmouth for such a long time, and I've had the benefit of, in my time as a student and after that, being able to know some of the tremendous student athletes that you've recruited. But now when you look at your time in their shoes, it wasn't just the sport of tennis, as we said at the top of the broadcast. You came to Monmouth originally to play basketball, but I guess they said, Coach, or at the time it wasn't Coach, at the time it was T or Patrice, you're here now. You're also going to play a lot of tennis, a lot of softball. You played 4 years of 3 different sports. You hear about that in high school. You don't hear about that in college very often. How did that go? Was it a coach coming to you? Did multiple coaches come to you? How in the world do you go from being a recruited basketball player to someone who literally had no free time for 4 years?
Right. Well, I think it's Joan Martin recruited me, and her husband Jim did too. So back in the day, Joan was actually a basketball official. So she would toss the ball up during the center to start the game, and she'd be talking to you about coming to Monmouth. So back then, those recruiting rules. I said back then, my high school career and early, it could be like one big NCAA violation because there were just no rules. So. But I did it in high school, so I was able to get 12 varsity letters in high school. So when I came to college, to me that was the norm. That was just something that I did. I didn't look at it as something that was unusual, and I was just able to do it. When Joan Martin was recruiting me, she knew that I definitely wanted to play the 3 sports. So it wasn't like there was no one twisting my arm in any way, shape, or form. I was super excited to play. And back then, you basically had three distinct seasons. Where now, our women's tennis season is basically the whole year. Basketball is basically the whole year. So softball has a fall season and a spring season. So back when I was, starting at Monmouth, we had 3 very distinct seasons. It just got a little bit crazy in October. We started basketball on October 15th. And my tennis season usually ended around Halloween. So for 2 weeks, but Joan Martin was coaching field hockey at that time too. So we were able to have basketball practice at night. So I'd have tennis practice in the afternoon and then go to basketball practice at night for a couple weeks. So, and I always said that I was recruited, scholarship athlete for basketball, but I said I never knew if I was a basketball player who played tennis or a tennis player who played basketball. So, and then softball was something that, I'd even played baseball when I was, young with the boys. So that was always in me too. But the other 2 sports, I think, were a little just more high profile for me.
Well, it was those exploits that ultimately landed Coach the honor and distinction of being named the best all-around athlete all 4 years that she was at Monmouth. It then paved the way for you to not only become the tennis coach, but to get inducted into the Monmouth University Athletics Hall of Fame. And one of the great pleasures that I had was the chance to get to know Coach even better through our involvement, not only with Monmouth, but being in so many Hall of Fame meetings and putting on so many great dinners. And, Coach, you really do span so much of Monmouth. In your time as an athlete, your time as a coach, everyone literally that came through. How much and how really, I guess, do you get to feel that pride being a member of the Hall of Fame committee, being able to coach? You connect so many dots. You can't tell the story of Monmouth without telling your story. to be able to serve on that committee for so long and to be as active as you are, how does that make you feel? Because it's really remarkable when you start to look back at it and just see all the different connections that you have.
Well, Eddie, I appreciate that, and it's that's one of the byproducts. Getting going to a group in Homedale and going to a school that's close by and everything. You stay in the area, you get to know a lot of people, and I was very honored and humbled to be inducted into the Hall of Fame. And it was funny after when I was playing basketball, you'd come out of Boylan Gym, and they used to have at that point, there only had two classes that were inducted. I think it was 81 and 80, the 81 class, because I had graduated in 82. So the 84 class wasn't even up there yet. I always remember looking at it and saying, boy, wouldn't that be cool someday if that ever happened for me? So to have it happen was, such an honor, and, internally grateful for that. But yeah, just meeting so many people, and I'm an administrator at Oak Hill Academy in Lincroft, and actually the way I'd gotten that job is through one of my Monmouth college professors, Dr. Marilyn Parker, and so it's the connections continue, and it's really it adds such value to your life when you get to meet such great people, and keep those friendships and develop new friendships. And I always tell my team, the kids that you're working with, you could 30, 40, 50 years down the road still be friends with them. And that's the case. I'm not in the 50 yet, in the 40s, in terms of teammates. Still get together with a whole host of teammates from especially basketball and some tennis too. And so we had this common goal 40 years ago, and we're still friends for that. So it's Monmouth has provided a lot, in terms of, again, starting you on your career and keeping those friendships. And so to be part of, helping out with any type of alumni functions, and then to help, to serve on the Hall of Fame committee, that was really neat to get to know some of the other athletes that I didn't know, and connect with them, and just in awe of their accomplishments and what they have done. It's been just a really neat experience to be part of that. So I'm really grateful to be part of it.
To that point, it's interesting. We mentioned I'm an alum. Coach obviously is an alum. So coming up, it's just a natural, seamless transition that this year's one of the marquee alumni events, this year's homecoming, it has gone virtual, and we want to remind you that is indeed right around the corner. And as we talk here on Tuesday night, we know so many of you will watch these Hawk Talks back during the week. But this Thursday, we want to remind you it's your last day to secure your specially curated box of Monmouth goodies, of Monmouth stuff that you can go get. It will be shipped right to your door. You can register for that as well as the virtual 5K and find all of the homecoming programming and information at monmouth.edu/homecoming. So please, monmouth.edu/homecoming has all the information that you will need about this year's virtual homecoming. It's like we are doing tonight. Normally, Coach and I would be in the same room, but because of what's going on, obviously, we like to do so much of this engagement virtually. Go back to the questions. Coach, question coming in from Tim in Belmar tonight. Tim, thanks for watching Hawk Talk. And he heard us talking just a minute ago about your time as a multi-sport student athlete. And, Coach, his question is, what were some of the good and the bad? What were the pros and the cons of playing 3 different sports while you were in college?
I'd say the only con is that you're tired sometimes. But, Tim, thanks for the question, because I loved every sport that I did. Loved my coaches, my teammates, the different experiences that you get to have. And basketball, we had more travel involved and things like that. So we got to go not too far away. Really, it's basically in vans. And as a tennis player, I drove the van as a student athlete. And then I drove it for softball too. So those are just fun stories. But the pros are just meeting a lot of people, and just love. When you're an athlete, you want to compete, and to be able to compete at 3 different sports you never get. I don't think I've ever been bored in my life. So to be able to constantly change, you would be sore for a little bit because you're warming up your arm and you're trying to throw. I played shortstop, so your arm would be a little bit sore because you haven't been throwing, or with basketball, you need your legs all the time, and tennis, that lateral movement and things like that. So it just comes with it, though. But just I would say all pros are just being able to have three distinct experiences and then to do it for 4 years.
And to be able to have friends and have connections, like you said, across so many different sports that you played with. It's not just that you were in school at the same time, but that you played and you competed with them. It really is remarkable. And Coach, we mentioned earlier the great facilities at Monmouth, and one of the real great facilities right behind the dorms is indeed the tennis facility with the 6 brand new courts that are just pristinely maintained, but also that tennis house that's back there. We'd be remiss not to mention it is named after you, and deservedly so, because of all the tremendous time and effort that you've put in. So when you come to work here, when you come to Monmouth and you get to go in and get ready for practice, I don't have anything named after me, so how cool is it to be able to go into that house, have your name on it, and be able to call that kind of your home on campus?
Yeah, no, again, honored and humbled, and the D'Alessandro Foundation, spearheaded by Joan and Howard Orlick, just great friends, and for them to make a huge donation to the tennis program and then wanting to have it, put in my name was, again, just such an honor for me. And it started probably 6 to 8 years ago. President Gaffney is the one that had kind of started the conversation and things like that with the Orlicks, and it just went from there. But still dear friends of mine, and just to be able, and their goal is with the D'Alessandro Foundation is to help students. So you could be helping students that are 5, 6 years old, or you could be helping kids that are 21 and 22. So it was something that they saw the need to be. We have a beautiful facility over there, and then it made sense to have an area where the kids could come in. The men and the women tennis players after before practice, after practice. Again, this is in the non-COVID world. We'd all be inside. In the COVID world, we're on the outside. But it's nice office space, and to have a changing room, an equipment room, and a lounge area. And we're looking to to make some adjustments and all that. It's just a great place to be. So very, very fortunate. And again, it's a cool thing for me, and it's I very appreciative for it to have happened.
Whether it was your time as a student, your time as a coach, I'm curious, and it could be tennis related or it could be kind of outside of the tennis world, because you span so much of Monmouth University athletics and its history. So when you think back, whether it was individually for you or for the department or for the university, what are the memories that stand out to you? Those kind of landmark things that when you're talking to either your classmates about it, or when you think back, what memories, be them tennis on the court or something great for the university or for athletics, what are those things, I'm curious, that stand out to you?
I've never really had that question asked, Eddie. See, not that you stumped me, but I just have to kind of preface some of that. But I think the evolution of Monmouth and Monmouth athletics is remarkable. I think we've always had a strong, solid program. But to see it, and you and I had talked about it a little bit before, just to see the campus and the improvements, when you think it's good, and then you realize, oh my goodness, it can be even better. And then once it gets better, it can even be beyond that. So to see all that, and then to have all the new facilities, and that's really tremendous. But some of the matches and stuff and things that I have played, there might be personal wins that I can still think back at and say I was proud of the way the team played, or if it's an individual tennis match, and particular plays and things like that. And in fact, I even told someone even today, I like to invoke this too. When I was a senior in college, we played at the UConn basketball tournament, and Monmouth College at that point beat the University of Connecticut in women's basketball. So there aren't too many schools I could say that, but Gino Oriyama wasn't there at that time, but we can still say we beat UConn. But it's so I think it's a collective, and just some of the great, I love supporting the other teams. So with some of them, with with all, with basketball and going to the NCAA tournament, and field hockey's done well, and baseball and soccer, and watching everything that's gone on with football. That it's fun. It's just fun and proud to be part of Monmouth athletics. It really is.
It's interesting that you bring up that UConn game, because I'm pretty sure on one of the anniversaries of that game, we had a Hall of Fame dinner. I'm pretty sure that I remember making that reference, that during a Monmouth Athletics Hall of Fame dinner, it was on the anniversary of that landmark win when you and your teammates beat Connecticut. So it really does come full circle. And, Coach, hopefully, like we said earlier, all of these seasons, we know basketball is scheduled to start in late November, but hopefully all of these seasons will begin and get rolling in the spring. And we wish you the best of luck, your team the best of luck. And thank you for giving us a few minutes here this evening. It was great to catch up.
Thanks, Eddie. I appreciate it very much. Thank you.
That's Monmouth Hall of Famer and women's tennis coach Patrice Murray joining me here in episode number 33 on Hawk Talk. Again, if you missed any of our conversation, you can catch up monmouthhawks.com, on the Athletics Department's YouTube page, and right here in the video tab on the Athletics Facebook page. For Coach Murray and our entire team here with the Monmouth Digital Network, I'm Eddie Acapinti saying good night on Hawk Talk.